So we'll talk about primarily defense first as SOVA. Usually the way I play SOVA is very passively, right? I play a lot of retaking with SOVA. I don't usually get super aggressive early. So I guess starting defense, the thing you always see me do is the long B arrow, right? So if I throw my long arrow, this is usually the good one I always try to throw. I don't think there's a better one than this one. The problem is a lot of teams just know to pre-aim this one. So there's different arrows you can throw. Sometimes I throw an arrow here. This is just so I can get the orb, right? If it gets one tick, they can't be close, and then I get the orb for free. You just have to be careful if a jet dashes, then he can kill you. So we have that arrow there. We have the arrow that goes up here. I have an arrow that I sometimes throw on the back wall or the back billboard. The problem with this arrow is if they go here, like if the jet dashes, you'll literally not know. Or if Omen TPs or if anything happens where they can get here early, you can die. So you have to be careful. And then defense arrows that I have. And again, one more, the asterisk is that I've already showed all these. People might not know my exact lineups, but I don't think it matters. They can find their own. But so my retake arrows here, I come in this corner and I aim at, there's two arrows I throw, right? I throw this one sometimes, which is you just come in this corner, you aim at the top right of this little stain on the floor, double bounce, full charge, and you'll see where it goes. It lands up here, which is good if they're coming out, like in those setups where me and Josh are chala'ing for each other, which I saw people asking, what does chala mean? Like they saw me say it, or they saw us say it. When we say chala, it just means that we have one of those setups going where he's going to be popping cages and he wants me to throw my arrow for him to kill through smokes, basically. So that's we just made a random name for it. So that's the first one I have. The other one I have that just makes it look, I have a different look. It's just a different lineup. So I come here and I aim, I think it's this one. Right in the bottom right. 1 bar, full power. And it lands. Is it bottom left of this one? Haven't thrown this one in a while. Is it the top?
Revealing area. Revealing area. Revealing area.
How did I throw this one before?
Revealing area.
That's the one. So it's right in the middle of this thing. The middle bottle. Middle bottom. Middle bottom. Same spot. 1 bar. Or full charge. 1 bounce.
Revealing
Middle
area.
bottom. It lands in this little lip right here. Just makes it really hard to kill. Especially if they have people chickening, right? If they have a guy waiting for the arrow and they're just pre-aiming the same spot every round, you throw it differently and it makes them have to react, right? So yeah, I also have another a similar retake one from here as well. This spot here. Just come in the corner. You aim right at the place where this little wire and this thing hits the wall. It's a 1 bar, or sorry, a 1 bounce in the 3rd bar.
Revealing area.
And it does kind of the same thing. Just lands a little bit higher. It's really hard for them to see this one. Especially since it comes from such a random spot.
Revealing area.
Like, if they're looking to try to track where it goes, like, sometimes it even goes inside of this little... whatever this is. But this thing doesn't actually... it doesn't actually exist, so it doesn't block it, so... it's good. Those are usually the 2 arrows I throw. I'm trying to come up with more, because I think this one, the problem with this one is that it takes too long to land.
Revealing area.
Like, it takes kind of a long time. So by the time he asks, see what happens with it? It like literally goes inside of it. So he asked for me to chala for him, and it just takes so long. So I need to find a different one than that one, but you can see that's something that I do. What does chickening mean? It just means you're shooting the arrow. A lot of times, especially in bind, it's pretty much every map. Any map where SOVA is, you should always have a guy that's ready to chicken, which just means shoot the SOVA arrow and execute. I can show you my A retake stuff too. If you come anywhere in this area and just aim up here and you just in the 2nd bar, it'll land for showers. There's not really a super lineup for it. It just lands on this back wall. I think it's if they're out showers. Green box, default, bench. I don't throw that one that often though. And then my trip that or my shocks that I throw for default, which is, I'm sure a lot of people have seen it. I'm trying to line up this thing right here in this area of this, where this little triangle is. I don't really do double shocks that often anymore, but I usually throw one shock here. So it wants to be like somewhere in this area, this little part of your HUD. This is a average Jonas one, and then you just jump.
Shock dart.
It's in the second bar and it's a jump throw. That just lands default. I'll throw it as an arrow so you can see. I got this one from Jonas though for sure. What's lands for the default? The planner guy. A-side arrows. Yeah. And this is another Jonas one I have. If you just come in this corner, double bar, double bounce, full charge. You aim like just a little bit off of this ledge so it doesn't hit it. You shock it.
Shock dart.
I'll show this an arrow so you can see.
Revealing area.
It bounces off here, and just lands and just murders this man that's default. The snowball came out? Nice. I can show some attack arrows too. I don't want this to all be about SOVA. I'd rather it just be about more general things than just specific agent stuff. I mean, I could talk forever about SOVA stuff, right? I have so much random SOVA stuff I don't really want to leak yet, but what if they smoke heaven? Yeah, well, that's the problem is usually what will happen is if you get in a spot heaven and you have no smoke, what I usually do, like you see it on Ascent a lot,
Right
where I'll
here.
ping exactly where I need to line up. So even if they smoke, I'll just be able to just keep re-pinging where I
Right
need to line it up, right? And then
Shock
you're just
dart.
able to do it even through a smoke. You can see exactly where you need to go. Haven arrows? Leak it? Does Sage Wall counter this? Counter what? Exactly. Sky Hawk Paths? I don't have any Sky. I think Sky is bad, dude. I don't like Sky. Do Omen stuff? What kind of Omen stuff do you want? Like I said, I could just sit here and just show you a lot of the lineups that I have. Like this, I'll show this one. I throw it differently than Jonas does. So you just come on top here, crouch, make sure you're aiming straight down into the top left corner here. And then I put my, you'll see what it looks like. I put my HUD right on this thing, and I leave a tiny little bit of leaf here. It's like right like that. And it's just in the middle bar. And it lands up here in this little window. And it's really good because people that play shower a lot, especially if you're a SOVA that defaults shower, a lot of people will just throw a lazy arrow off this wall, and then people will just start pre-aiming this one. This one has a really weird timing if you're playing shower, and it also just lands in a spot where people just don't go up there pre-aiming it, right? So again, it looks like this. I'm looking right, my HUD, look at where my HUD goes here. It's this little line here goes on this vertical line, and there's a little bit of leaf showing.
Revealing
It's just a
area.
one bar, or in the second bar. And again, it just lands up here, and it gets all of shower. Show my hookah arrows. I have some hookah arrows. We throw. I think most SOVAs know this one. This one's kind of. You need the barrier, but I think it still works. You just come into the where when the barrier is up, you just come right in the. You just get stuck by the barrier in this wall. And you put the right side of the right diamond right in line with this little thing. It's an instant
Revealing
click.
area.
And then you can also one bounce it,
Revealing
and you can also
area.
two bounce it. And each one they land in different spots. So the first one lands here, which will get all of the back of hookah. The second one lands here, which will get pretty much the front of hookah in this spot specifically. It lands like right here, so it gets most of them, and they can still hide behind it. And the second one is like more of a timing arrow. It lands like here, but it gets all of the back, and it gets most of the front. They could hide here, but a lot of times when I throw this arrow, it's when we're trying to take hookah like based off of timing. I also have one from here. I line up flush with this wall, and then I look straight down and go on this back tile. And then I think it's like this, I want to say. I'll line up the right side of my... I think it's like this. Just make sure I do it before it's like this maybe?
Revealing area.
Yeah. The 2 charge full bar.
Revealing area.
It bounces twice and lands in hookah on here. It's just a different look, different timing. So just line yourself up on this thing. This is a nitro on this one. And you put the middle of your charge bar right in line with this thing here. See how it's right in the middle of it, the bottom right of the box. Double bounce, full power.
Revealing area.
And that lands in hookah. That's when you can throw late rounds, so you don't need the barrier, obviously. It's good. You want to see some shocks I have for this site? I made these ones myself. The God arrow for sight is just here.
Revealing area.
Just needs to land on this little vent. And then to throw the same God arrow from outside of hookah, you come in line with this box. You just like hide this side of the box like this. See how there's this like little line right here that goes horizontally. It goes across. You aim on the left side where it meets this white thing. It's a 1 bar and a jump. You'll see. It lands up in the same spot. And it gets all back sight. It's just the God arrow. It's from a different spot that you can throw it. Are you going to be playing comp today? I played comp already all morning. So we're probably just going to do this for a while until maybe even the stream is over. Hi, Hiko. This is the Fnatic Matcher. Please delete this VOD. And then my shocks for this site. Firstly, people don't know this, but if you're SOVA and you're in hookah and you're just behind this wall and you're like, oh my god, they're stuck. They're stuck cubby. I wanted to get a shock there, but I don't have an angle without coming all the way up and trying to bounce off here. What you can do is if you're just behind this wall, if you're really anywhere back here at all, if you just double bounce it and full power at the top right of this little triangle, it'll actually land in that cubby and it'll hit them. And I feel like not many people know about that. There's a lot of SOVAs I play that just like, they like try to walk up here with an arrow and try to shoot it from here, but you don't have to. You can just do it from here. Like I said, double bounce, full power from there, and it still lands there. People don't know that. I don't know why. It's actually really annoying when I play with SOVAs. And the last thing I want to show is SOVA before we move on to not just SOVA specific stuff. My long B stuff I have. So I line up with this. I make sure I'm not on this back one, I'm somewhere in the middle. I line up this little line and I aim around here, double bounce, full power, and I jump and throw it at the peak of my jump, and it lands cubby, and it collapsed this man cubby. The other arrow I have is if you double bounce it, if you come and you hide this wall, so somewhere like I probably line up this wall with this side, and you double bounce, full bounce it here. This will go inside the crate for the noob that just the cypher that sits here on a camera. So usually what I'll do here is I'll 1 bar, full power it. It'll land shallow, and then if you double bounce it, it'll land deeper. So it gets them if they try to run away from it, the next one. So it's good. The other one I have is off this wall. You hide this wall with this arrow, or this wall, this arrow. This wall and this window have to line up. You aim at the top right of this window. And it's a 2 bounce, full power. This one lands behind this green box here, which I think is really good. A lot of people, I mean, if they're playing B, not for retake, they play here or they play in the crate, right? Or they play backside. I have a backside one, but I don't really want to show that one yet. It's a nerd arrow. So those are the shocks locations I have. This arrow, the shock that lands here, also will kill any trip that's on this box. So it's good to throw. Line up Larry. Yeah, I have some. I have some good ones. And then again, the God arrow that I always throw is I crouch and I aim like right above this little lip of this thing, and it just lands up there. So ciphers normally play A or B. The best cipher is usually just switch around a lot, right? And it kind of depends on like what your team has. If you have a SOVA, like the way we play cipher, at least when Steel comes and plays with me, our setup usually is he'll have cages.
Cage triggered.
He'll have cages that he puts, like, I think he puts one around this area. I actually think he puts one, people usually smoke sponge. He puts one like here and one here. And basically our setup is when both of the cages pop, my SOVA arrow comes up and we kill them all through the smokes, right? So normally there'll be an omen smoke here. So if you're playing with a SOVA, I think SOVA and Cypher is one of the most synergistic agent lineups right now, because with the cages, even though they act as smokes, the smokes are open on the top, right? So if you have a SOVA and you throw a SOVA arrow above the Cypher cages, then you literally will see them inside the smoke. So it's really powerful to play your Cypher on SOVA a lot, But I guess just like a basic setup, like what most ciphers do. This camera is really popular now. I feel like almost everyone throws this camera. People don't really know about it. Let's see if I can get it. I don't usually play Cypher. It's been a while. You can throw one over here too. It's just for ease of use, I guess. It's that awkward moment when you try to show something and it doesn't work. So usually what the standard setup is like, this is a really good camera. I like it because you can see both, and people don't usually know about it. I think this is the one that most people throw too, this trip. It gets olive long. You have to be careful with this trip though, because obviously they can jump it, but normally if they're just running up long, it'll just hit, right? And then usually most ciphers will either also trip U-haul, sorry, elbow push, or they'll throw a trip for like pushing sight, or they'll throw a trip like inside of hookah. It just kind of depends like what the team is doing. It's kind of weird to try to figure out what setup to do based on the other comp. So for instance, if you're playing Cypher and you know the other team is playing Raze, for example, and you're trying to trip hookah, you probably don't want to trip hookah because most of the time the Raze will boombot in and then he'll nade front hookah or nade back sight. So you have to change the way you play based on that. We can go over A as well. Maybe we should do this fast. I know Cypher probably, people probably want SOVA stuff more than Cypher, but most teams that play Cypher A, they usually throw a trip like this for running into sight, because usually they don't kill this one, or they'll throw a trip like deep U-haul, or they'll throw a trip here. Just depends on like what the other team's agents comps are, especially if the other team has a SOVA. You have to be careful of putting a trip like this, because a lot of SOVAs will find this trip with his drone, or he'll have shocks for it. A lot of playing Cypher is like trial and error. It's like try to figure out if the other team's killing your shocks, if they're dashing through your shocks, if they're satcheling, if they're nading, if they have SOVA lineups for it, and kind of react accordingly. Like you don't want to keep putting up the same trip every single round if they're just getting killed, right? It's better to throw passive trips that stay up, and you know, you can play like kind of ratty, kind of like how Steel plays, where you can have like a weird one-way cage with the trip and just play in the cage and play off contact for your trip and then kill them. Trip the TP. Yeah, the ninja. Yeah, ninja throws attack trips. He trips like this on the TP. It's I don't like that one, but how to hold A site without playing retake? Usually people will do like a U-haul setup. There's not really anything else you can do, especially on bind. Cypher mains are yummy. It's pretty standard. Some of the best cameras for A site is this one up here. It's just really high, and people know to look for it, but sometimes you'll get away with throwing this one and people won't know. Also, I like this. This camera is like an OG camera that I think Steel has been throwing. But this is one that existed in the beta that not many people knew about. It's also kind of hard to see if you get it placed in the right spot, because this random like smoke from the these vents make it hard to see sometimes. Yeah, it's like they can kind of walk out shower this one, but it's hard to see because this one's technically like in this little dust, so it kind of gives you some coverage. It's good for a retake to be able to tag the planner and then see where they all are. Cypher used to be the god, now he's fallen off a bit. The U-haul camera is good. Yeah, there's a lot of different things you can do with Cypher. That's the problem, is that there's so many different ways to play Cypher. Like having a camera that you can put up and kind of like AFK. I'm trying to think of how to explain it. The longer your camera is up as Cypher, the better. The least amount of times you actually go in and out of your camera makes it easier or harder for the other team to kind of figure out where the Cypher camera and stuff are. So that's kind of like, you have to have a good balance playing Cypher of knowing when you should go into your camera. Also, when you should, where your body should be when you have a camera. So like sometimes some Cyphers will put a camera at A, but the body will actually be, you know, at the B site somewhere.
Here.
So it makes it kind of look like you're playing heavy A while Cypher's actually B. So it's There's a lot of like misdirection stuff you can do with Cypher. I think that's why Steel is one of the better, or maybe if not best ciphers right now. He's really good at outthinking people. I don't know. Steel has a cage he throws up here somehow. I don't know this lineup. I don't play Cypher for my team, so. But yeah, he has a cage he throws up here that is a one way. I have no idea how he does it. You have to ask him, or even if he wants to show it. I mean, I would never leak something that we've never shown that we plan on doing. It's only stuff that's already existed in like VODs, right? So people that
Cage triggered.
it's something like this. I don't know. It's some kind of U-Haul one. And all the pro teams already know what we do, so it doesn't really matter if I'm showing what we've already showed.